Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Grow Yours podcast, where we talk everything consultants, coaching, advising. And today I'm thrilled to be joined by Katie Nelson, founder and CEO of Sales Uprising. Katie, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Giuseppe. How are you?
I'm doing great. And how are you doing this fine Tuesday?
Oh, I'm super excited. Let's
All
get
right,
to it.
awesome. So before we get into the nitty gritty and the meat of everything, I want the audience to get a little bit more of a better idea of who you are. So you describe yourself as an accidental entrepreneur. You want to take us through that accidental entrepreneurial journey?
Sure. My parents were business owners, so I grew up in a house where that didn't seem super fun in the 80s and 90s. It wasn't like, rah, let me own my own thing. It was just a matter of course. And years and years and years later, when I was in the professional services space, I was asked by a previous mentor, hey, did I want to start a thing? And so we did. And so I had a title. I was an owner of a thing, but my job was the same. I wasn't really thinking about me as a leader. When you're growing a company, you just are doing the do. So that's kind of how I went into it. And for years, I didn't even talk about that company. It was just all kind of accidental. And it rolled into the next one, oddly. And then it rolled into the third one. So I just kind of tripped and fell into business ownership.
Okay. I mean, that's super interesting. You mentioned that you've owned three businesses throughout your career. So I'm assuming this stumbling in was the first one. And then what came next? And then Sales Uprising?
Yes. So I stumbled into the first one. You can't plan for everything in your business, the pandemic being an example. But pre-pandemic, there was a hitch in the giddy up of my first business. So we ramped up to six figures plus, things were going great. Our target client ended up freezing everything. And so you just kind of have to roll with the punches. That turned into my second business, and we grew that to a $6 million run rate in under 3 years before I started Sales Uprising.
Wow. So what made you want to switch to helping entrepreneurs with their sales strategies and kind of running off with Sales Uprising?
Probably very specifically because of my parents and the dinner table that I grew up around. uh, I think growing up, what I thought was, you know what, if my parents just had really great salespeople, they would have no problems. And so I ended up becoming this wildly successful salesperson. And then when I became a business owner, I realized I was right. If you don't, nothing happens until a dollar is exchanged. So your sales engine kind of needs to get up and running and then keep going while the rest of the company grows from there. And at the end of the day, while doing professional services, hit my heart from a win-win-win perspective. I loved getting people jobs. I loved making my clients happy and their end client ultimately. But where my heart really lies is in successful business ownership for everybody who can make it happen for themselves.
So what would you say when speaking to a business owner is their biggest struggle when dealing with sales? What is the number one thing that you always see that made you want to be the person to fix it?
You mean when they tell me their biggest challenge is sales?
Yes, sure.
Yeah. If their biggest challenge is sales, I tell them to stop doing everything else until that's no longer a challenge.
Okay.
Period. Because everything else is in preparation, right? If you think about a business, everything else is in preparation for when you sell something. The delivery happens after the sale. You know who you are better, therefore you can market better. So there's nothing better that you can do for your business than stop doing everything else and master your sales and selling and how you feel, your mindset about that, and really just looking to grow.
Mm-hmm. But wouldn't you say there's the idea that marketing is doing some of the selling for you? So if your marketing is really good, then the sales is easier?
No, I would never say that.
Really? Marketers would beg to differ.
I know. I'm very aware. And not all of them. And So let me put it into context because nothing is without context, right?
Hmm.
So marketers would also tell you that your strongest marketing will be when you know your target market like nobody else and you can actually speak to them. That's the point of your marketing. At the end of the day, all that does is warm them up. Bots don't buy. You know, if you are in coaching or consulting, all of the lovely list of things that you mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, what I hear is you're in relationships. And at the end of the day, marketing can only get a relationship so far.
Okay.
Sales is what takes it over the finish line, so to speak.
Yeah, all right, I agree with that because without the two meshing with each other, there's really no success in either.
Yes. I mean, it's a true, you know, it's
Symbiotic relationship.
yes, it's the front of the quarter and the back of the quarter. Like
Hmm.
it's the heads and tails, but it's the same exact thing.
Okay, I want to get into marketing in a bit, but I want to talk about one of your philosophies that you try to instill, I guess, into all of your students slash clients, whatever you want to call them, and that's taking sales from fear to fun.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about how you psychologically transition somebody from the fear state of, oh my God, I have a sales call, I'm really nervous, I don't know how I'm going to handle it, to, yes, I have a sales call, this is going to be such a fun conversation.
Psychologically, my clients have to do that on their own.
Ah,
I am not a therapist.
no, I mean,
And I'm not I'm not going to I don't coach in that way. But
hmm.
what I can tell you is that the process itself is what I'll tell them to do. There's nothing to fear in sales. If rejection is your biggest thing, great. I'm going to have you name all the times you've been rejected in your life. Right? So you're a 35-year-old person. You're going to tell me selling is super, super scary. I'm going to tell you all of the times you've been rejected. I'm probably going to have you write a list of all of the scary things you've done in your life. And yet you and I are still having this conversation, which helps people bridge the gap a little bit to say, oh, right, things don't, things that I fear don't kill me. And ultimately, sales, if it's not your preferred way of sales is no one's preferred way of communication. Okay. I own a company called Sales Uprising. I would still rather have a conversation with you than have you feel like I'm selling you something. Like that's
Hmm.
not a real thing. And I love selling my services and that I love talking about it and I love letting people know who I am. But the the very idea of sales gets twisted in people's minds as to like what it is. It's really nothing further than like literally taking the relationship to the next step for money. That's it.
Well, I feel like people really struggle with doing that, whether it's a money relationship or an emotional relationship. I think that next step is one of the hardest humps to get over.
Which is the next step? Is the next step asking for the business? Is the next step delivering on the business? Which is the next step for you
For me personally,
or your people, right? Which next
mm,
step are we talking about?
I don't know. I feel like most people are pretty confident in their delivery, and that's the reason that they're starting the business. So I guess it's asking for the money, asking for the business.
Absolutely. And there's a couple of reasons for that, right? They may be unsure of their rates. Like if they're just getting started, there's this concept of charging what you're worth. What does that really mean? Uh, no one wants to be seen as undercharging because that supposedly communicates a thing. Or you can just be completely straight up. You don't need to have any kind of imposter syndrome. You can say, yeah, so I just started my business yesterday. This is what I'm great at. I see you may have a need for it. Want to do some business together?
Mm, simple enough. You make it sound so easy. Um, so if you're showing people exactly how it's so fearless to get into the sale and convert that sale, what do you say to people who just say like, hey, I don't even want to do it? Do you believe that business owners need to have the ability to sell their own product, or do you think they could just get right into getting a salesperson and training them?
I think that's a great question. And it comes up a lot. And again, I would need the context of the business, right? What's the goal of the business owner? Do they currently have funds to spend on business development? And ultimately, I would tell you if a CEO can't sell what their company does, like what do they do? Right. So I work with small businesses all day. I no longer have to work with multi-billion-dollar corporations. If you're a multi-billion-dollar corporation, my guess is you sell just fine, but your whole job is something else.
Hmm.
Uh, but in the target market that I work with is, 10 mil and under, you 100% need to know how to sell. Now, you don't have to, but if you don't, then you're opening up a big gap for risk to jump in your business. So, uh, you tell me you want to hire a BD person straight off the bat. I I'm a BD person. I was in business development for years. I've sold over $150 million in product and services. Technically, I'm kind of an expensive salesperson. So I'm going to ask you some pretty hardcore questions. If you're looking to set me up for success, one, how am I going to get paid? So you as a business owner need to figure that out. Two, how are you going to make that attractive? And three, I have tons more questions. How long does it take to convert a warm lead into a sale? What does the delivery process look like? I'm going to have a bunch of questions because ultimately, as a salesperson, my client is going to want to know those things and I need to tell them. If you aren't in sales, if you haven't sold, you don't have the answers that you need even to develop the right talent to sell for you.
Do you help though with the development of the sales process to either like shorten the sales cycle or like create the answers to all the questions that you just asked?
Sure.
Okay. So in the situation, right, where this person's like, I don't want to do sales, blah blah blah, but then they come talk to you and you ask them all these questions they don't have the answers to, wouldn't they just kind of object and say, well, can't you give me the answers?
They can object and try and say, give me the answers. Ultimately, though, when you're new in business, there are things that I can't answer for you. It's your business. Who is your target market? Why are they going to buy you? Who do they buy that looks like you? I'm going to have a ton of questions. Ultimately, walking through a sale for your business answers so many questions about your business, marketing being just one of them, right? So even though you're the expert in the thing, I would never recommend someone start a business. There's a great book. It's called The E-Myth. It might even be The E-Myth Revisited, but there's a story about a person who loves baking. If you love baking and all you want to be is the expert, then go be the expert. Go work in a Michelin star restaurant. Go work with some of the best pastry chefs in the world. Don't become a baker. As soon as you own a bakery, you have to become a whole bunch of other things. And, you have to become the IT person, the janitor, the person who does the point of sale. You have to become the salesperson. So if you want to start a business, you better get super excited to get square with being the number one salesperson for your business, at least for a little while.
Okay. And so once these people have this epiphany that you push upon them,
One, I
uh,
don't push anything on anybody.
well, I mean not push. I'm sorry, maybe that was the wrong word.
They come
You
to their own
yeah,
epiphany. Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
that you guide them towards or help
I
their
let
mindset
It's
get that
there
way.
for them if they want it. Yes.
Hmm. So now they realize they have to do this. But they still have that like nagging feeling of, hey, I'm pushing this on to the person in front of me. How do you help them realize that you doing the sale is actually a service to the person in front of them?
Well, so for one, the people so I've been in Sales Uprising for 9 years, and I've been in sales and business development for multiple decades, many decades at this point. And I would tell you that salespeople would never tell you they feel pushy,
Hmm.
which means that if a person does feel like they're still pushing, they don't have that in them. They've probably never pushed. Like, if you think about the people who say, Katie, I don't want to be a pushy salesperson, they're the nicest, sweetest, most intelligent, bright people. So all that means is that they don't know what sales is, which is providing a service. So as soon as you can say that, here's the thing, Giuseppe, if you know your target market and you know that you have the thing that solves their problem, creates results for them that get them to the next space, as soon as you recognize that it's not about you or like how you feel, it's all about them, it's so much easier for people to come to the realization that like, oh my gosh, right. Why aren't I screaming this from the top of the mountain where all my people gather? Of course I need to tell them this. I have the thing they need. That's why they're in business. They want to help.
I do agree with you. I think solution based selling is the only way to sell. So there's no other point in having conversation with people. But I guess some people are just super introverted. I guess they can be really, really good at stuff and be really, really introverted. So then it's almost like they're putting on a performance during the sale, even though they know what they're doing is helping the person. But the whole act of the sales call is something that they literally feel like they're acting.
Well, one, introverts sell better than extroverts. So go introverts.
Okay, wait,
Go have
let's
it.
dig into that a little bit.
Why do you think that is? What do you think the sales process is about? At the end of the day, so say you're a potential client of mine. It's my
Okay,
whole job to understand you and where you are in your business, which means I ask a ton of questions. I'm not doing a whole lot of talking. I'm doing
sure.
a whole lot of listening. And introverts by nature would rather have you talk than them talk. So, uh, it's so funny. You're like, wait, let's dive into that. When I stand in front of a room of people and tell people that, they're like, no, 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 walk me through that.
Yeah,
Why
because
is that? So extroverts are wildly more successful at marketing because that's the outward facing business function of marketing. Selling is a listening prospect. Selling has very little to do with me, Katie Nelson. It has everything to do with whoever is in front of me that I may have the solution for. It's my job to get to know them, understand them, and see if I'm the right fit for them. And so once people really understand that that's what it's about, it feels less like acting and more like just any other getting to know you human thing.
hmm, honestly, I would argue now that. Well, I
I
mean, I don't
wondered when
have
you
a.
were going to argue.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because the way that marketing is moving now, there's a lot of like everything is kind of data based decisions. So I know myself, I rather sit in front of the data and make decisions in the background. And I guess I don't know if I'm like an introvert or extrovert. I never actually sat there and analyzed myself like, what do you enjoy? What do you not enjoy? But I feel like a lot of marketers I speak to now are not very extroverted because they just sit in front of data and make decisions based on that data.
I'm talking about in-person marketing, right?
Okay.
So how you show up in a room, how you show up to network, how you show up at any connection event, right? How you show up in a room, not the like back end, how do you create a campaign or a funnel or any of that stuff.
So you would classify showing up in the room as, I mean, when you're showing up in the room though, it's all part of a sales process. No, I wouldn't say it's the marketing part of it.
We
Oh,
can
here
arm
we go.
wrestle.
I mean, I don't want to. I'm not saying that I know better than you because no chance that I do. But
I'm open to it. If you can give me something new, like let's talk about it. But ultimately, when I walk in a room, I don't have like a square in my hand and I'm like a barker at a circus, like, come buy my crap. This is awesome. Like, who does that?
I mean, uh, you're familiar with Russell Brunson at all or no?
The funnels guy?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But he does a lot of in person stuff. He's like the inventor of the one to many selling, which is literally just a sales presentation, but he markets it that way. And he talks about when you're doing like a live event and you're doing a speech, from the minute you show up, it's the beginning of the sale. Like you walk into the room and the sale to all these people begins.
So, yes. And
And
that's in the same exact way that the first time someone sees a blog article of yours and you have a call to action is also, which is a very much a marketing funnel thing, that also starts the sale.
okay.
So there's no difference between that. However, you get to know about me, Katie Nelson and Sales Uprising is both the beginning of the marketing push to you and the sales push to you. Marketing has no purpose, particularly, you know, and marketers don't get mad. There's
Yeah, I was
also
just say don't hurt my
public
feelings.
relations. Like there's a very large umbrella that's called marketing. The marketing that I'm talking about is all in print, 2D, it could be videos, it could be socials. Like there's a very large umbrella that covers marketing. So I'm very hesitant to say it's whitewashed with one paintbrush, right? But marketing's purpose is to sell you. It's to get more know, like, and trust. It's to get more prospects into the top of your funnel. That's the purpose of marketing. The purpose of marketing isn't to sell my stuff. However, when they're working well, they make everything easier. Sales's job is to give marketing enough information so that marketing can make sales jobs easier, and then it all gets to be easier.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you.
Well,
So
thank
where where does that line start then? Where's the transition of the sales cycle, marketing cycle, whatever you want to call it? I guess when does it go from all right, this prospect is being marketed to this prospect is being sold? Where does that begin? Is it the first point of
Does it
human
matter?
contact?
Why do you ask?
No, I'm just I don't know. I'm curious personally where that
Well,
distinction is.
it depends on how big your business is, right? So if you have a whole organization that supports the marketing portion, you have a marketing funnel on top of your sales funnel. Um, and so, and you can Google up funnel and it'll give you a picture of every dang thing ever known to man. There's the simplest sales funnel, which is, you've got your prospects up at the top. Prospects is like exactly where marketing and sales meet, is at the
Hmm.
prospects portion. So if you're thinking of a traditional funnel, there's also one that's above that, which is marketing's job to get all the people into the prospect section. And the beautiful thing about marketing is that in today's day and age, if as a business owner, you understand how to qualify your potential clients, you can even get them all the way through the first qualification round of potentially being a client of yours. Now, I would tell you that if you're a coach or a consultant, you probably are going to want to talk to this person before you allow them into your program or you decide to work for them. It's one of the beauties of being your own boss.
Hmm.
And so the handoff for me comes into either the qualification process or the requalification process, depending on how deep your marketing goes.
Okay. All right, I'm on board with that. I think I could agree there. I guess it's a very blurred line. It's not like the most straightforward thing that there could
It
be.
not with today, not with technology today, with all of the amazing things that Russell Brunson has created, and with I mean, it even started back with Infusionsoft, which was this huge company that allowed you to create amazing conversations with a prospect through not the telephone, right? So in an
Hmm.
email format, to keep them engaged and paying attention to what you're doing so they can know a little bit more about you, and make as much of a decision as they can based on what you put out as to whether or not they want to work with you.
Okay. All right.
For me, there will always be qualification, presenting what you do and how you do it and how it's best for them, and then asking for the business. I think when people think about sales, the part that gets their goat the most is the asking for the business piece, which is crazy to me because, uh, you go on a date,
Uh
right? You
oh.
go on a date and it's a great date. It's wonderful. It's absolutely, and then nothing happens. There's nobody says, "Would you like to go out again?" But both of you thought it was a great date. Selling without asking is kind of like that. It doesn't make anybody feel good. Like you're just like, "Oh, okay." Now you're left questioning, "I thought that was a really great date. Did my breath smell or like what happened?" You know, at least I assume that still happens. I've been married for 22 years, man. I don't know why I talk about dating. Um, so selling is like asking for the business is your job. You literally talk to this person. They say yes. They say, yes, it does sound like I need your support. It does sound like everything that you have is exactly what I want. Are you just supposed to sit there and wait for them to whip out their credit card? Like, how rude is that?
Yeah, I
Why
agree.
wouldn't you say, wonderful? Would you like to know how that works and move forward?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that as well. Okay, so I guess there's a lot. I guess people are just constantly kind of caught up in the BS of it all,
Aren't we
and
all about everything? I mean, we are humans.
yeah, I guess so. Some people I talk to, I'm like, you're a robot. I'm like, you
Oh,
know one thing and one thing only.
You know what? There is something to knowing your one thing, though. I mean, really and
Yeah.
truly, think about the business owners, it's so easy for entrepreneurs to, there's even a syndrome, right? The red shiny ball syndrome, squirrel. If you can just rock your one thing to success, does it matter if you do all the things? So I don't know.
Hmm. Okay. So speaking of BS,
Ah,
I want to talk about now your book or upcoming book, All Love, No Bullshit. I don't know if I should be saying that on here, but
it's yours.
yeah, I guess so, right? I make the rules. So, what does this philosophy mean in sales, and how does it translate to actionable sales strategies for yourself, your clients?
Okay. Well, so let's give an update on the book. I don't know that there will ever be a book. It turns out it's much more likely to be a live action movie. No, I'm joking.
That would
So
be sick.
all, all love, no bullshit came from an exercise. There's a 6-word exercise that my good friend Gordon Bernhardt, who's one of the books up here, taught me, and it's from Ernest Hemingway at the end of the day. But it literally is the 6 words that is like all of you condensed. So if you have to think about the entirety of you, what are the 6 words you would come up with? And the crazy thing about this is, so we went around the room. I was in the room with some amazing business owners, and I don't know if you noticed, Giuseppe, but I like words. So I
Hmm.
was really excited to do this, and uh, ultimately how I describe myself is all love, no bullshit. And it's reflected in everything that I do. So selling is one of those things. If you love your client, selling to them is okay. Now, marketing, don't be mad at me. Marketing's job is to make things pretty. Can we all
Okay.
agree to that?
Yeah, kind of. Pretty and informative.
Yeah, well, sure, sure,
Yeah, yeah.
sure. Nope. Yes, I agree. So, I would say that it's marketing's job to put lipstick on the pig, and sales is the pig. So, you know, the no bullshit part comes in with statements, depending on what you're selling. Although the majority of us sell a solution to a problem, problems aren't easy to fix. So saying something like, this isn't going to be easy is a no bullshit thing to say in the sales process. See where I'm going? Um, yes, you can have this. It's unlikely you're going to get these results. So, all love, no bullshit is really the philosophy of my life. And then it just happens to also really, really work well in terms of sales and business.
Why is it no longer going to be a book? You just don't want to write it?
No, it's written.
Oh,
I
what do you mean?
well, so there are some people that are authors, there are some people that are speakers, some people are practiced authors. I'm a business coach. So
Yeah.
uh in
So
an
are a lot of
effort,
other authors.
oh, absolutely. And I hats off to them. They're amazing. What I would say is I just don't like it. It doesn't communicate in the way it's not dynamic enough. How's that? A book isn't dynamic enough. If it would have to be a fiction book for it to get me as excited as it should about the things that I do. So when I
Okay.
talk about it, sales gets to come to life and it involves humans and all of that. I've found that very difficult to capture on paper.
Yeah. And I guess when it's a book, it leaves a lot up to interpretation.
Right. So then you have to write every line of context, which is complicated and difficult and wildly boring.
To some.
Fair.
Okay.
I mean, I
So,
guess I could have just said, I ain't got no time, man.
yeah, I know.
But
Yeah,
that's the real.
yeah, I get the gist. So, you ever think about taking it in? I know you said live action is a joke, but you ever thought about taking it and doing something on like YouTube that
Oh
could
yeah.
allow you to project like exactly what you wanted to do with the book, except in
Oh,
a YouTube
Giuseppe, it'll
series?
probably yes. So it'll probably end up looking more like that. It'll either go on YouTube. There's also huge parts and pieces of it have been extricated for podcasting and things like that. So
Mhm.
it just won't end up being in book form, not until years later when somebody figures out how to make it sexier.
Mhm. I mean, I do know some people for that actually. There's a coach I know. His name's
Fantastic.
Simon Golden, and he actually coaches with book writing and stuff like that.
Oh no, I know many, many book coaches.
Oh, okay.
But that I mean, and not to get terribly off topic, it's not a priority. Like it
Yeah,
won't be a
that's fair.
priority until it's a priority.
Hmm. Yeah, a lot of people use. I know a lot of people who use books as a marketing source, actually. So
Yep. And it's
they
a great
go.
one.
Hmm. Okay, so now I guess I kind of want to transition into the stuff that we've been. Well, you've been a little neglectful. Not neglectful. That's not the word. Um, well, indifferent to, which is, I guess, the marketing side of how your whole business of all businesses operate. And so, you do or used to run a workshop called Magnetic Marketing.
Oh, I still do.
Okay.
So let's be very clear. If anyone else here has heard me be indifferent to marketing, you would be wrong. I am not indifferent to marketing. I love marketing. I love marketing the same way I love lawyers and I love human resources. It is a highly necessary function of your business. Uh, I think of it a little differently than most in that I think that you're like selling and selling first uh makes your marketing machine go faster. So you want to focus on that so you can feed either yourself if you're doing your own marketing or your agency all the answers to the Mad Lib that they're going to ask you in an effort to have sexy marketing. But I think that marketing is wildly necessary if you are looking to have a business that grows beyond $250,000 and ultimately isn't in your own backyard.
Hmm.
You can grow a $100,000 business without
Okay.
any of it.
So you are big on the concept of attraction versus chasing, correct?
Yes.
All right. Why'd you say it like that?
Chasing, that sounds too much like a workout. So I just, to me, that's antithetical. Like chasing leads, chasing things is never going to get you what you want. Like no. Yes. Attracting.
Okay, but wouldn't you say like part of a marketing process, like after you attract them, let's say, I don't know, they're a no show or something along those lines, follow up is like kind of chasing, right? And that's part of like,
Bullshit. Oh,
oh,
sorry. Oh, sorry. We decided that one was an okay one, right?
yeah. I think
Okay.
we're all good.
So I don't agree. Now we can arm wrestle. Following up is not chasing someone. Now,
Okay.
if you feel that way, it's just because you probably did it in a manner that makes you feel that way
Hmm.
or them feel that way.
Got
But
it.
you and I had a conversation. We met at a networking thing. We exchanged business cards, the lovely exchanging of business cards, which I don't do. If you were to say, "Here, Katie, take my business card," I would say, "Why do you want me to have your business card?" And it would be because you would say, "I want to get in touch with you." Okay, great. I have a computer in my hand. Why don't you pull out your computer in your hand? We'll go ahead and just have a connection call. So there, you take care of that. It's already booked. There's agreement on both sides, right? So you and I have a connection call and you say, "Oh, yeah, Katie, it sounds like this could be a thing." I don't have time to go deeper into it because we've only scheduled 20 minutes and I didn't know what kind of call this was going to be, but I'm definitely interested in your services. Well, do you then get off the phone and say, "Great, that's awesome. I guess I'll catch you later. Peace out"? No, you say, "Wonderful. So when's a good time for you?" Follow up is, so I've never played football. I know that probably surprises you, but I've watched a lot of it. Think of your sales process. If it doesn't happen like, the Hail Mary and you have a 99-yard touchdown, it's more like just looking for your next first down. So you have the ball. It's your job to make sure that you're not chasing. Ask the person. It's not about you. If it's vibing, then you would never be chasing. You're just saying, "Okay, how would you like me to follow up with you?" You do that. If you're going to then say, "Well, then Katie, then they ghost you." You get to decide how many times you want to touch base with them. I don't know about you, Giuseppe, but I got a lot of things going on in my life. I love nothing more than somebody who calls me and says, "Hey, Katie, I know that we've missed each other a couple times. Is this still a priority for you?" Oh my gosh, Julie, thank you so much. I love you. Like, why is it got to be about somebody's ditching me?
I don't know.
Right.
I don't have the answer for you, to be honest.
Why is it got to be about somebody ditching anybody? Isn't it just more likely that they got something else that's more prioritized in their life to do? So, and if that's the case, don't we all want our priorities to be the things we go after? Like, give your people some grace. Give yourself some grace. Why has it got to feel like chasing somebody?
I guess it doesn't.
I agree with you. You're right.
I mean, it's your thought. I'm kind of agreeing with you. So, um, since you love marketing so much, I am curious, how did you go about building your business? What type of marketing tactics did you use?
Okay. So I do love marketing. And when I started my business, my expertise is not in marketing. I know it's crazy, but it's not. And so the first 3 years of my business, I threw up a landing page that had my very first uh, logo on it and like this super sexy, and by sexy, I use that in air quotes if anybody's interested, sexy ombre colors that said Sales Uprising, Katie Nelson, CEO and founder, phone number, email address,
Nice.
look me up. And that stayed there for like 3 years. Like that's all it
That's a
was.
that's a good one.
I mean, it wasn't complicated. So the majority of the marketing that I did is what I teach people in the beginning of my business. Like, set it and forget it. You have to have a website. It should probably look a little bit more in-depth and minded, but it doesn't need to be wildly complicated. It doesn't need to be 15 pages. You haven't been in business but a month. So go ahead and get it up so that you can feel comfortable. And for when people say, do you have a website, they can go look you up. But ultimately, how I marketed was in person through speaking events in my neighborhood, my local chamber of commerce, like the appropriate networking groups for me where my target market was hanging out. That's all of the marketing that I did for the first 3 years of my business. The beautiful part about it is that I could have kept going like that uh, and to success. So there was nothing wrong with that method. It wasn't until I was looking at expanding outside of where I was at that I needed to ask for anyone's support in that. And by then I had the money to pay for him. So it was great.
And then who did you ask for support and how did they support you?
So I got a website person. I have one
Simple
right
enough.
now. My website's currently being redone. If anybody's interested, his name is Troy Reamer. He owns a company called Red Clay Creative. He's a dear friend of mine. But I also I'd always had a CRM because if you're a salesperson, you're like, what's my CRM? What's my, for those of you who don't know, that's client retention management or customer retention management. The beauty of marketing these days and CRMs is that there are a lot of different tools where those things can now intertwine as marketing and sales should. So I have an amazing CRM and that team. I have, Chelsea runs my creative. So she's all of my everything social and all of those things. So I have an internal team member who does it for me.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to pick your brain about.
Oh my gosh, don't do that. That sounds painful.
Nah, it'll be fun.
Oh, okay.
So, what do you like? I guess, let's say you have a client, you get them all ready and good to go in sales. They're feeling confident, they're feeling great. How do you where do they go from there? They need to get people to speak to. So, what do you usually suggest for starting that marketing efforts once they kind of master the sales side?
How long do you think it takes? What is the definition for you of mastering sales?
Well, for me, I would say there's never really truly mastering it. Like, you're constantly learning every day. Every sales call teaches you something else. Every objection, everything teaches you more and more. But there's a point where it's like, okay, my close rate is 40%, right? 30%, 40%, which is
Nice.
solid. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, now I need more people to close 30, 40% of. Where do you direct them from there? Or do you not give them any direction there?
Um, no. So they need more of an audience, right? So
Yeah,
to
that's
your
what I'm
point,
saying. They
yeah.
need more
So
people to speak to.
100%. So this is where you are one, if you've gotten to a place of a 40% close rate. So how I think of it, I guess a little differently than you with, right? So in services based business, if you have gotten to around 250K, the reason why 250K is such a big deal is because around that period of time, depending on the cost of your offering, you really have an idea as to where your next client is coming from, right? You're like, okay, so there's somewhere in my pipeline. So if what you're talking about is I just need a bigger pipeline, This is where you have, there's 16 different marketing methods. The first 3 of which, when you're in startup, are all human to human contact. As you grow in your business, you add different pieces. So you were talking a book, for example. You could write a book. It has the ability to have a ton of content and have a great marketing platform built into it. It's going to require a ton of time and effort for you to do that, in an effort for that to pay off potentially. So the first thing I recommend is speaking, and developing your speaking relationships. So kind of like what Russell would tell you, 1 to many is always going to be a bigger deal. And when there's many, that's also more people that you can add back into your funnel and into your into your prospect list. So I think the biggest question that's missing from the question you asked me is, how much money does this person want to make? Like,
Oh, yeah, that is a good question.
right? Like, you don't need to do any of this stuff depending on what you want to grow. So if you want to grow to $1 million, you're going to use a little bit more sophisticated marketing techniques than if you're looking to be a $500,000 business, right? So it's incremental, and you don't have to wait. You can do all of them in the beginning. I know businesses that have. There is no right or wrong. There's only growing faster or slower. So how big is the company that you're talking about? How sophisticated do we need to get for them?
You're such a salesperson asking me more questions.
Imagine that.
I don't know. What? I guess the question back to you is, when a client is finished, I guess, with your services, where are they usually at?
If they stay with me, if they're looking to grow, so the majority, my mastermind is for solopreneurs in services-based businesses that are looking to get to 250K as fast as they can have their hair blown back. So the people that I work with automatically are like, I want the money. Like, I understand why, as a business owner, this is a number for me. I understand that the revenue that my business generates is different than the paycheck that I pay myself. So there's a lot incorporated into that sentence. If they're interested in growing beyond that into their first, second, or third 6, 7 figures, then they can also work with me. After that, they can go ahead and start hiring their like real teams of people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This is where you can bring in an agency, like literally be able to, your business will still be profitable. You will still have the cash that you want, and you will make so much money. You can afford to bring in the best and brightest if you choose to do so, if you're looking to grow beyond that.
Okay, that makes sense. So as we wrap up here, what is one piece of advice you would give to all small business owners that are looking to improve their sales, but they don't know where to start? Besides, come
Uh,
talk to you.
I was going to say, look me up. You can find me. No. What I would say is give yourself grace. When we're talking about fear is overcome by courage. The more you strap on your courage every day to go sell something, the more competent you become at doing that thing. In this instance, it's selling. And if you do it enough, you wake up and you're wildly confident in your skill set. So at the end of the day, it's through the doing. Go sell more.
Give it a shot. All right. So, Katie, this has been an insightful conversation. You're okay with Katie, right? Yeah. You okay?
Yes.
All right. I mean, I don't know. Some people are like, I'm
Did you
Kate.
want to call me something else? What did you
Oh,
have in mind? Like, let
no.
me know.
Some people are like, I'm Kate, or I'm
Oh, no.
Catherine, whatever the full name is.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I really did enjoy the conversation. Before we go, can you share with everyone where they can find you, how they can get in contact with you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn at Katie Nelson. You can Sales Uprising everywhere. But if you really want some funny, helpful sales tips, go check out my YouTube page at Sales Uprising.
Okay. Sounds good. Everybody, this has been the Grow Yours podcast. And until next time, we'll see you. Katie, thank you again for joining us.